This is Listening with Franklin Livingston, and our guest is Christine Stoddard Sánchez.
My friend, a very fine young woman, went to one of the finest universities. Her parents are not white, and she doesn't have an accent. I think I tell her that the way she carries herself is white culturally. So I think she was looking for belonging. And romantically.
Oh.
She still feels, although she doesn't share with me anymore, because the time has passed, maybe 10 years, and she doesn't want to share that she's in the same position where she was, but I think it's the same. So in her mind, she's not accepted because she's different. And because she's different, maybe she's not beautiful. And she's not desirable. Because people look at her outer appearance, not her intellect or accomplishments or traits. This issue, which is the lack of belonging, has made her do a lot of unwise things. Now, from my perspective, I see her presenting herself to men who are out there to take advantage of anyone. For example, these are men who are either married or who have relationships, but they are also maintaining relationships without telling their first spouse, if you call them spouse. In her mind, finally, she got to hear someone say, "I love you." In my mind, and I said that to her, that phrase doesn't mean anything. That phrase is to fool you so they could get what they want out of you. And in her mind, she was never been accepted. Thus, she never belonged to any group, including, she mentioned she tried going to Christian small groups. And I understand Christian small groups are usually non-denominational or conservative church groups, and people could be very arrogant there. Their arrogance is, I'm saved and you're not.
Right.
Or also somehow it ends up getting into this racial stuff, which is biblically wrong, but in their mind, I'm a superhuman, you're not, right?
Yeah.
And no one cares. In her case, she would say no one cares if she was born in the U.S. or not, because she doesn't look like. And if she's not speaking, no one hears her accent. Right? That's another challenge if you're at a public place. Everyone longs to belong somewhere. And longing is an outcome of belonging. When you miss belonging, you're going to long. And humans, when we say, oh my God, a lot of people don't say about these things in modern day, unless it's poetry, it's some sort of quote, so they will repost, which might be from 18th century. I wish I belonged to you. Your tears are, my heart sings to see your tears. That thing that, the words that might be very creepy if you say to even people don't say that to your life partners, just because no one talks like that. Because again, the idea is no one talks like that. But everyone wants to be loved, accepted, and embraced the way they are initially. a lot of people have problem with religion. I don't know what you mentioned you didn't want to have God and Jesus Christ. I
No,
don't
no, no,
know.
no. I had God.
Oh, you
I
had
did
it.
want God.
Oh,
in my
you did.
ceremony.
Okay,
I
okay.
did not
Oh
want
my God.
Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
did not want Jesus?
No.
Okay.
No.
We need to talk about that. Yeah, I wanted God and not Jesus. So I want God without Jesus. So a lot of people have problem with God, right? Why? First of all, they might not have a good experience with someone who in Christian doctrine say God the Father. So what if they had bad experience with their own father or a father-like figure? So they don't want to talk about father-like figure, which in Christian narrative, it's God. So they would say no. Because again, I don't want to belong to that group. I don't want to belong to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Alternatively, there are people who long to be a part of a group or an individual. But then there is this tension how the father should be, how the person I want to belong to should be. If you say a person should be a superhero and your spouse doesn't qualify, because who sets these standards? Marvel. Right?
Right.
So if the superhero, you're a person you want to belong to doesn't qualify, then there's a problem, unless you're that mature. Then there's a societal pressure.
Yeah.
What would people say if my wife or my husband or my spouse is not up to the mark? I still remember there was some big person in the politics, I want to say. I might be wrong. So this was during COVID, and he was having a meeting on Zoom. There was a door behind him. I saw this on TV. A woman walked in and took away the kid. And then the guy on the other side of the camera said, "Oh, your maid just came in." And he said, "No, actually, that's my wife."
Oh,
because
yeah, I do remember
she was
this.
Asian.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how J.D. Vance dealt. His wife is Indian
Right.
racially. I think they both went to Yale. So she might be born in the U.S. She might not be culturally or national. I don't know how to say these things. It becomes really confusing that who is American and who is not.
Yeah.
But when people would look, and especially, I don't know how long they got married. 10 years ago, things are very, very different.
Right.
Before, so we have even been talking about Iowa. Before Google and these tech jobs, Iowa was extremely white. I have seen that change. So I went back and I was like, okay, you can see some brown people in the restaurants. But initially when I was there, finding a brown person was not easy.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, let me find. Oh God,
Binoculars.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know their challenges, but this idea of belonging, I wanna be accepted by the kind of guys I like, but they don't want me because they think you're not one of those. And accepting rejection is not easy.
Yeah.
I asked you that question.
Yeah.
So she really destroyed, at the time I was using ruined or destroyed herself. Why? Because she doesn't have peace. She gets that physical time, that validation. But again, this is my paraphrasing. Something is missing. So this fully doesn't actually feed her need. And I'm using this phrase that she is not at peace.
Yeah.
And she has been back and forth. She's from a different state. I don't know if I told you that. She's been back and forth because she's in search of that peace which is missing. And that kind of peace, it's very easy for me to say. If I say only God can give her that peace, I know it's very easy to say. It's the same thing when my mother passed away and somebody said, "Oh, she's at a better place." And it's very easy to say to someone else.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's empathetic. Rushing that. Sometimes we rush in saying things, and it's not empathetic, like the term.
Yeah.
Even empathy is trying to understand, what if I was in that position,
Yeah.
in that age, or in those circumstances. Same thing for me to say to her. I never said to her that, hey, you lack peace, you need God, right? Because she does, in her own way, believe in God. And I know her parents are from two different religious backgrounds. She might say sometimes she's Christian, she might say she is searching, but I never said to her, yeah, you should repent, and otherwise, because a lot of people do that, and I don't
Yeah.
think they help,
No.
because it doesn't validate your belonging. Saying to somebody you belong to God is very easy to say, but can you explain that? If you were in that position, how difficult or easy it'll be for you to accept that and not do the wise things. And trust me, I have a great respect for evangelical brothers and sisters, I always say. But I don't know the shotgun evangelism is a part of the text, the Bible.
What does that mean?
Shotgun evangelism, I learned that was like, what if you die today, where will you be next, or what's going to happen to you? So you better accept Jesus Christ right now, otherwise you're going to go.
Yeah.
Right? So, because no, I don't think Jesus himself did that.
Right.
The apostles did that, and they always say that you should have faith and engage in good deeds. And it's a balance, what you were talking about. Our denomination, sometimes they focus on one thing and leave the other out.
Yeah.
And this shotgun evangelism is very American. And 19th century American Christianity is very interesting, actually. Oh, yeah, a lot of things actually happened, and it's very interesting till today. But the belonging, I think that's where the community members, they can come along. People like you. I am very actually inspired by these hostings that you do. As I mentioned earlier, I personally think there's strength to sharing a meal with somebody.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, you guys open doors to have meal. Having a meal is very powerful. That makes people vulnerable. That makes people, it's not easy. I mean, I'm a very shy person in a lot of ways, and eating in front of sitting in front of somebody and looking into the eyes, it takes some time. So it's just natural the way humans are. And the religion we follow, it started with just meals. What is the communion? It became that ritual and vestments and the smoke thingy the priest does. But if you go back, when we read the book of Acts, it's just simple. They used to share the meal.
Yeah.
And they used to thank God, right? And what did Jesus do? The Last Supper.
Yeah.
Right? And people, I think what you're doing is really great, because this kind of, my friend I mentioned, we still friends. It's just like I can go thus far. There's a gender difference.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes people just feel connected to, because I think in her mind, I will always be coming at her with exhortation. Here's another old-fashioned word.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just helping somebody relate to you and you relating to them, developing that bond so that empathy could take place, that I feel you. But life is not fair. Even that's a reality. And we don't get what we wish for. And then building on that. But no one is going to share that if we are standing far behind telling them you got to repent.
Yeah.
And it came to my mind when you were talking about this television. I don't know what they were going to do or you were going to say, but you can, and there are times you can have an excellent sermon. Sometimes I would just listen to Joel Osteen. I think he's a great guy, right? But it's not that I'm going to listen to him every day. Do I believe in everything he says? No. Do I believe in everything Catholic Church says? No. Do I agree with them? No. But there are good things that I can learn.
Yeah.
And I can trace my spiritual heritage like you went to trace your cultural heritage. You mentioned that your mom didn't care. Everybody doesn't do like that. Everybody does not have that interest. I do in the spiritual heritage. And this belonging, I struggle with that too. It comes with maturity. It takes some time. People who are younger, I think, a lot of times, and also this idea of actual educational competence. People lack belonging there too on these campuses.
Yeah.
Because mostly it's a rivalry. You gotta get A or I'm gonna get A.
Right.
Am I more teacher's pet, professor's pet, or you are? So you are in a community where your goals are different. You are not aiming for the same goal. And the same goal can make your relationship stronger or it can ruin it. Like marriage we talked about, dating. When you have different goals, then it could be a little tricky to manage that relationship.
Yeah,
If you have one goal, we're not in competition with each other.
Yeah.
We are aiming for that goal.
Yeah.
And sometimes that goal could define belonging. And in sports, we see that. We're fighting against Argentina or whoever. So our aim is, our objective is to win the World Cup. So we belong to that group of people. And then we might set aside our own weaknesses, desires. But when there's no vision, we will perish.
Still, what you were saying earlier about sharing a meal reminded me that today we're recording on Martin Luther King Day. And when I belonged to AmeriCorps on Martin Luther King Day, we would go to a church. There wouldn't be any kind of service, but we would prepare meals for something like 200 people, and nobody had to sign up. They would just show up, and then we would sit with them and eat with them. And that was the day, right? And at the time of service, I wasn't particularly impressed with it, but I remember by the end of the day feeling like, oh, this is special because there is vulnerability in eating, in sharing a meal with someone and making eye contact with someone, especially a stranger or someone who's new to you. What you were saying about belonging, I have this one classmate who really only, now at grad school, who really only gets along with me. And she regularly complains about feeling out of place, isolated. But I have seen her decline invitation after invitation. People will invite her to their home, right? So she doesn't have to spend any money, if that's the excuse. You could just go to the apartment. That's it. But she just keeps saying, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do. Well, sometimes God throws you the life vest, as they say. And
you say, no, I want God directly to lift me up. Yeah.
Take it. Do you actually want this or not? Do you actually want friends, or at least people who are more than classmates you barely make eye contact with? Do you want to have some kind of personal relationships while you're in grad school? Or do you just want to complain about, this is a hyper competitive, elitist environment. Some people are not taking it very seriously and they're just coasting because they know it's all pass fail, and daddy's going to get them whatever high paying job at the end of it. They just have to get this degree. But it's a year of your life, and you can choose to belong or not to an extent, right? Like for your friend, with some of the choices she might be making and her love life. Yeah, I guess my first question is, why do you want those kinds of men? What do you see in these men that you're choosing? Sometimes we think we want something that doesn't, or someone that doesn't really make sense for us.
Mm-hmm. Some people, okay, I'm going to go back to the biblical narratives, and you can see in other documents too, there was a concept of apprenticeship, right? And even you can go before Christ, Aristotle and these guys, where an individual used to surrender themselves to the master to learn, but it wasn't the way we have learning, be cool. And it's like when Russian acting teachers used to teach us, they used to say it's very different there. You're so chill. Or students stand up when the teacher comes. So we are way relaxed. So when we see these biblical texts as an example where these apostles, and then there's a community, the term I used early on, exhortation, it was part of that, because sometimes you can't let the person, and that's where we get in conflict with the modern culture. You can't let the person just choose or do certain things because they are not in that position to make that choices. And if they're by themselves, there's no strong community around, because there are times they will not listen to their family members, but they would listen to the community members, right? So if they don't have a sincere community around them or friends, they can really go insane and do things, because those are the weaker moments we all have. Us personally.
Yeah.
And in that moment, your desire overcomes. Your desire takes over and makes you think, this is okay, I can get right now. You're not getting the desired outcome, so this is the alternative. Go with it. So that's why people would do that. The other thought I had was, oh God, I totally forgot. But let me give you this idea of being in control. I like the fact airplanes don't give access to its passengers to the cockpit.
Yeah.
Right? Captain is there. He or she's going to announce that, okay, we're going to fly, and this is the tribulation we have to deal with. So go suit yourself, whatever you want to do, just don't open the bells, etc., etc. And people can't do anything. In filmmaking, what I learned, a lot of people, especially less experienced and younger people who just want to become a star overnight, you plan something, it's not working out, you're just talking to the DP or AD, and they'll say, so what's the plan? What are we doing? When are we filming next scene? And they don't know those questions are not helping us. Rather, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Right? Because they want to take charge. And if you try to have talk with them, they'll say, oh no, I just wanted to be helpful. Because in their mind, that's their belonging. I belong to this group.
Yeah.
So the idea of belonging is a reciprocal idea in ideal world, where it's give and take. Again, it's listening. Because listening is both speaking and paying attention, and letting that affect you. A lot of times people don't let them. Okay, keep saying. I'm going to do what I want, right? And I totally forgot what we were talking about earlier when you were talking about this people want to belong, and we talked about sharing the meal. yeah, sharing the meal when you were talking, I was thinking about why is date tied to dinner? If I'm gonna go out on a date night with my hubby, with my boyfriend, with my girl, whatever, right? But just that meal, you stare at each other in the candlelight, right? So there is a power to eating together, and it doesn't have to be like a lavish meal. But this friend of yours who can't go to people's places, what if she has some sort of fear? Well, she can't do that. But she doesn't even know. Everyone is not self-aware. Remember, we were talking about inhibition,
Yeah.
and you started this awareness thing at lunch. So what if there's some lack? And in that case, maybe, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but this is what I do to my friends. I would say, listen, dude, you're not going to listen to me. You're ruining your life. I've told you 1 million times. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, you will face the consequences.
Yeah. No, I came to that point with her before Christmas because I was very annoyed because she would text me every day. We had classes together, so we would spend a lot of the day. She would not talk to anybody else, and she would go on shoots. Nobody else would help her with these shoots, but it's because she didn't have a rapport with anybody. So I was the only one that she would turn to for anything. And yeah, I had that like try and come to Jesus moment with her of, if you want this to work, you are going to have to give some of yourself to other people. That is how relationships work, right? There has to be some exchange, not again like it's accounting and I give this and you give that and blah blah blah. But if you're not going to budge at all, why should they budge? And especially when the other person's making the first move and you're still like, no, well then now it really just seems like you want to whine. It doesn't seem like you actually want to have other friends.
It's tough, yeah, because in this culture, I remember two friends. I think we were friends at that point. And one of these, I think I mentioned, both from the same cultural background. White. So one of these young women were going through some really difficult health-related. Wanted to have some, I think she needed some surgery. So I asked the other one, hey, how's the other person doing? And she said, oh, I just left her on her own. She's dealing with a lot of health and all that. So it's better for her to just work on herself, probably, she said. And that's the culture we live in.
Yeah.
People usually would, and even if you say, I'm going to go to surgery and all that, they might check on you for day 1 and 2, might deliver a soup. Then you're on your own for the rest of the 15 days. And this is a sad reality once told to me by a plastic surgeon, not like these beautification, not cosmetic, the other plastic surgeons who fix your sinusitis. And so he said the thing is that we have so much pressure, we can't keep any patient overnight. If we do that, the insurance companies get after us, and we can make an exception. I have to really write that's so critical, blah, 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 which is a sad reality. But a lot of the, I just met a doctor. We became friends overseas, and his sister is a doctor in San Francisco. And he was saying she wants to quit, but we're not sure how to tell to her parents. I said, yeah, I told her to open a restaurant or bar. I don't tell them. Right? And I asked him why. He said, she tells in the U.S. it's so stressful because you're pressurized by these policies, and then insurance companies, and it's no fun.
Yeah.
And it's a sad reality. And that's where the system is. But back to the same thing, our culture is not where people will check on you consecutively.
Right.
And if somebody does that, one should be, I don't know, more than thankful. It's literally God's hand. It's literally a divine help. and divine mercy and grace. If you could find even pastors or church leaders who preach and teach about this are not like that.
Right.
And I remember this belonging, for some people, it's so confusing. Again, Iowa, there was a church pastor guy, and he would force me. He said, why don't you go, there was a state university, why don't you go, and there's a small Pakistani students group, right? I already checked their page, I guess, or something. And I said, no, I don't think I can hang out with them. And he would force me because in his mind, I belonged there, right? And in my mind, no, because of a lot of differences, cultural difference, religious difference. They were more fanatic types. And same thing when I went to Illinois, and the registrar said to me, oh, did you go to a Pakistani church here? And I was confused, like, why do I have to go to a Pakistani church? But some people think that if you are different, then you belong to the group that looks like you. And which might not be the case. It reminds me of a movie, Green Book. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
It's a journey of a black man who was a pianist. He had 2, I guess, PhDs in theology and music, and he was pianist. And he goes by road to the south to play. The most profound moment that stood out to me while watching the movie is he gets out of his car. Yeah, his name is Dr. Shirley. It's based on a real story. And he sees these African Americans working in the fields. Now, I forgot, actually, there are more than one moment. One moment, actually, yeah, one scene where he articulates. He was given, this is, I don't know, 50s or 60s. He was to stay at a colored people hotel or whatever they called back then.
Right.
And people who are already there, he's not like that. He's not like them because they are drinking, they are more rough. And he's like a guy who wears suit, he has 2 PhDs. And he says, I think, at some point that he's not one of those people. But throughout the movie, I think the movie makers were trying to show where does he see himself and where does the majority, because again, like he goes and plays in the South at somebody's home and they don't let him use their bathroom because they say, oh, your thing is out. So you go out there wherever they had some sort of system. And but in his mind, he's privileged. And it's not even in his mind. In his formation, he is not used to of a rough, blue-collared or underprivileged life. But society views him one of them. And a lot of people, I don't know what your mother went through, what you shared. And I thank you for sharing that. It wasn't easy. It might be very painful, very difficult. But I still see a lot of people in that identity crisis.
Yeah.
Because their racial identity is different. Their cultural upbringing is different. Their social affiliation is different, but that changes. A lot of people, when they get married, then they change, especially in the states where marriage is a big thing, where they get married early and they have 2-3 kids by the time they're 30. And then they want to associate with like-minded people because their kids go on play dates and they don't want to mix their kids with everybody because then there's fear of other things. Kids, then they become teen and all, and you know that stuff.
Yeah.
So belonging is important. Everyone, humans, we can't live by ourselves. And where we are accountable to our community, the community is accountable to each individual too. And every individual of the community and community as a whole, right? And it starts with listening. But I think sharing a meal is a very advanced step, which you have already taken. So that's really, really great.
I also like to eat. So
Yeah, but you could eat yourself. You don't have to invite others. That's the thing.
yeah,
right?
no,
Sharing
it's true.
is not easy.
Yeah. Especially when you're doing all the cooking and then the cleaning afterwards. And some people bring something and other people won't, or some people will offer to cook or clean afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if someone is raised in an individualistic culture, sharing stove,
Mhm.
cloth, what do you call that cloth that hangs next to
Yeah,
the
the
stove?
dish cloth.
Cloth thingy, right? And it's just like, yeah, it's because it's not the culture. The first family I was living with, they used to have a guest from South India, and they were close to him in their own way. And he was also close to the family across the street, which was a young family with three little kids, and maybe like late 20s, 30s. So this gentleman would walk there and bring, say, I mean, raw onion or some sort of thing that he would chop it and makes salad, salsa type thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I once asked this woman, the lady of the house, because these people were too white. Too white in a way. I don't think they ever traveled to New York City. Those kind of white. So
That's pretty white.
So yeah, and I asked them if they shared a meal together, or if you wanted to eat something different than what you had in your fridge. And did you ever walk to your neighbor because they're so close and say, "Hey, what's in your fridge? I just want to eat something," right? You know, even if it's just chips and salsa. They said, no, we don't do that here, right? And at that point, I wasn't that confident to say, but you are so Christian. Christianity is based on eating together.
Mm.
That's the foundation of when I went to Rome, what are the places you go underneath? The catacombs. So these people were just like gathering there, eating nothing. They were not like playing instruments and doing like lead guitar and bass guitar church. This church, all the ritualistic Catholicism, this is the latter version. This is not the real Jesus Church or Apostle Paul's church. Those people were just eating and talking. And they were talking about becoming a better human being.
Mm-hmm.
What is Jesus telling? Love your neighbor, help your neighbor. And he's talking about when I was sick, you came to me. When I was in jail, you visited me.
Yeah.
And I was a refugee here. And if you did that to the poorest of poor, you did that to me. It wasn't anything like, oh God, like did you paint the walls of Egypt? No. Or because they had their own things too. If we have like all technology, they had their own version because
Yeah.
that's why you have pyramids and all in Egypt. But his focus was just like eating, not eating like gluttons, like sharing a meal and
Right.
sharing your stuff. And sometimes people just need your time, listening ear.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would have a dilemma. I know what I want to do, but I want to hear it from somebody else. So I would go to my trusted friend and I'll just share. But when the same thing is said by somebody you trust,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're younger than me or less educated, but there's trust. So yes, I would go to my friend and I would bounce off of, for the lack of a better phrase, right?
Yeah.
But as humans, I think sometimes we need that.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives us that sense of validation. But we should be wise where we go to.
Right. Yeah. You want to go to somebody you think has a good head on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And some people will just say what they think you want to hear, right? They're not going to be honest. And it's important to seek out people who are going to be direct. I think some people think that being direct means being cruel or crass, but that doesn't have to be the case. I think there are ways to be direct that are still gentle, right? Like,
Yeah,
still.
you can phrase a little,
Yeah.
not like Franklin.
Yeah, you don't, you don't have to be too flowery about it, but you can let someone down easy instead of being harsh, but still tell them what they need to hear. And
And trust me, mostly people I know, they don't do that. Very rarely. Mostly
Yeah.
people would say, yeah, it's up to you. Whatever you feel like doing.
yeah.
Uh,
But I think if I'm asking somebody for their opinion, I want their actual opinion, right? My boyfriend and I do this thing where we ask when the other person starts opening up about something, we'll ask, okay, are you looking for advice right now, or are you just looking for an ear? And if the person says advice, then we give our opinion. And if the person says the ear, then we'll just listen, right? Because there are different reasons why somebody might come to you with a problem. Sometimes it's not a solution. Sometimes they do know what they're going to do already, and they're going to go through with it, but they need to get something off their chest first. But
I'm going to
yeah.
So one thing I have learned, even about myself, I was the guy who would go and do it, right? But with the passage of time, some friends previously, say if someone said something to me 4 years ago, in that moment I was like, yeah, it's okay. Okay, that's their opinion, but I'm going to do this. But as I grew mature, I don't think I'm that mature, still work in progress. But as I spent more time, those suggestions, recommendations come back.
Yeah.
But again, you have to have that discerning process. You
Right.
have to spend time in just sitting and listening.
Yeah.
If you keep rushing and you don't give your system a break, then it's not going to happen. In my mind, because I know some friends, maybe I believed, or some friends used to say, giving break, okay, go grab a drink. I don't think that's like giving. Giving break means giving break. And it's like fasting. You give your system a break. And it's not that, okay, I just stop desserts for 2 days and let's see what happens. And that the good thoughts, they come to you. And sometimes they later on teach you or work, and words have power.
Yeah.
I used to read that a lot, power of positivity words and all that. But now I strongly believe that one should say those things, and even the next person who might not be ready to listen, later on it might benefit them.
Yeah, that's true. I have had a couple of experiences, though, where I realized by me giving my opinion, it came across as judgment, even if that's not what I intended. So now, for that reason, I'm in the habit of asking what somebody wants from me. And I think it adjusts how I listen to them, too.
And judgment, I don't think, is a negative word, or should be always negative.
Yeah.
Right? In court proceedings, we use that term a lot. We wait for a judgment. Okay, I really want this, so I can write on Facebook about so and so. A lot of people do that, right? And that's the judgment of a person who went to law school and then became judge. And you have been asked to give your opinion, which is a judgment.
Yeah.
But people use it more like, you're going to judge me? Oh my God, I hate your judgments. You're always judging me. So it goes in a very different, it has a very different connotation, right? So, but it shouldn't always be negative.
Yeah. Well, and especially sometimes you give somebody, or you can give somebody advice that will change their life. And I know I've had friends and acquaintances come to me later and they'll say, thank you so much for telling me that. Thank you so much for suggesting that. No one else would say that. No one else told me the truth, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I mean, it can be hard to see what somebody's ready for. And sometimes you might say something that ends a relationship, a friendship, but sometimes you have to be honest. Even if it's not what they want to hear.
Yeah. Because, see, you will be at peace.
Yes. Yep. Like, hey, at least I tried.
And then your conscience is clear. You did your part in terms of your accountability, your duty toward your community.
Mm-hmm.
And then let it be. Christine, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
You were a gift to all of us.
Aw,
and
thank
I am
you.
inspired to hear your story, your journey, and your deeds, that you are engaged in some good work, some God's work. And you are really building all of us up directly and indirectly. And it's really, truly inspirational.
Yeah, thank you for bringing a historical sense of religion that I have honestly never had anyone bring to me before in a recorded conversation.
I wasn't planning on it, just came up. So yeah, thank you for listening. And well, that's great to hear that it made some sense.